What's up, YouTube? My name is Eric. This video is, can we build a dependency on Viagra, Cialis? When it comes to ED drugs, do we actually get a dependency to them where we need to have those in our life? This is my take on it. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a counselor. I'm none of that. My name is Eric. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. I've self-harmed before. I'm a recovering addict from alcohol and cocaine. And I also lost a wife and a father to suicide. I do a lot when it comes to anything mental illness, mental health related, suicide, when it comes to sobriety, and sharing what I've been through. In this video here, I've been asked a lot of different questions of, hey, you know what? I've been taking these medications and I think that I'm dependent on them. Well, from my personal experience, I think that you can. I know that you can build a mental dependency on them from being their firsthand experience. I mean, let's face it, these drugs are around because we've all had those moments where we are just like this, and no matter what's happening, it's just like this. And as a guy, it crushes your ego. It hurts you as a guy. You're embarrassed. You're not telling your friends about it. You're not telling anybody about it. You're telling everybody how you're strong like bull. I mean, if it's a one-night stand, you're never seeing that person again because, let's face it, it really does take a toll on you. Well, when you find these different medications out there that maybe you're not even prescribed, let's face it, a majority of us have experimented, especially if you're a male, with Viagra. You're taking this drug and you're like, oh my God, this is a holy grail. Yeah, there's a part of it that is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, 4 hours of your life, it's like, wow, you know what? I should become a porn star because this is amazing. But we build that tolerance to it. The reason I started even taking these different medications was because I was so heavily involved using alcohol and cocaine that, you know what, my parts weren't working right. So I had to use something to make them work right because I also struggle with sex addiction. And well, these are what I defaulted to. Later on, I found out a lot of my issues was, one, my addiction was killing my libido. Also stress, also not working out, being overweight, just the blood flow in my body. I mean, I was just destroying myself and killing myself. And I defaulted to these drugs to help me because, well, let's face it, I wanted to have sex. I struggle with that addiction. And taking these medications made me feel like I was a superstar, that I could do it. I mean, it had so many different side effects when you mix them with alcohol and cocaine. I've done videos on those. But when all that goes away and you do get sober, I'm going to say that there's a part of you that needs those medications at least to get yourself to the point where you realize that you don't need them. I can tell you this, when I got sober for the first part, I mean, trying to have sex was horrible. I mean, it sucked. And it really sucks too, because when you get sober, alcohol diminishes your dopamine and sex releases dopamine. That's why it's really easy to get switched over to sex and you're very hypersexual when you get sober, because it's one of the few things that's releasing the happy chemical in your brain that next thing you know, when this isn't working, oh my God, what do I have left? And you do build this dependency where you are now taking these meds, not prescribed. They're not necessarily making you high. They're suiting your need. You do build that mental dependency on it. I mean, the only way I can say that I was able to break through my mental dependency on these was to get myself back into shape, to being very active, and to realizing and noticing each time that when I was having sex that I didn't take any of these. And oh my God, it worked. And it actually builds your confidence level up a little bit. I mean, let's face it, a lot of guys do not talk about this shit. Nobody talks about it being soft. Nobody does. Why? Nobody wants to. Every girl, though, out there can tell you an experience of being with a guy and it was soft, whether it was due to shit. You don't even think of the reverse effect of the woman who's going, he doesn't like me. Am I ugly? I'm not pretty enough. Why doesn't he want me? I mean, it really, when sex isn't working, it has both opposite sides of the spectrum that really do take a toll on mentally. So being though on these medications, you do build that dependency where you feel that you need these meds every time that you're going to have sex. And if you don't have any, you know, you're turning somebody down, you're shying away from it. You're doing almost anything you can to prevent having sex because you're afraid that it's not going to work. One of the things, though, I found also that helps is being very open about it. It's being like, hey, you know what? I've been taking these meds and I'm not taking these anymore. And I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I need your support. It's getting comfortable with your partner. It's having that communication with your partner. And it's setting those expectations where they're realistic. And if you've ever been with somebody who's on these medications, yeah, it doesn't stop. But when they're off of these and they're not taking them anymore, all of a sudden you're like, wow, what happened? That wasn't what I expected. Well, communication, explain to somebody like, hey, I was popping Viagra, by the way, a lot of it, because here's why. If the person wants to be with you, they'll be with you. They'll understand where you're coming from. They'll listen to you talk about it and talk about your struggles, talk about your fears. The more that you share and the more that you're open, the more that you're vulnerable, people will understand. And that's where there's certain things that, foreplay is really important when it comes to it. Exercise is really important when it comes to it. Diet's really important when it comes to it. And it will help you gain that back. And don't get me wrong, there are times where you do need to literally go and get prescribed and you are on ED drugs like Viagra or Cialis the rest of your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't need the meds, why are you taking and putting extra shit in your body that you don't need? And now all of a sudden building that mental dependency on it that all of a sudden now you almost have a craving for because you can't have sex anymore unless you have them. I mean, these are the things that you have to talk about with your partner. Be open with your partner about of what your struggles are. And if you're stressed out, let them know that you're stressed out. Let them know everything. Pleasure your partner even. Let them get off. Don't get off. That's okay, and build up to it. But it's scary. It's one of those things that's so uncomfortable to talk about sex, and it's one of those things that we don't talk about enough. Because let's face it, a lot of relationships get ruined on sex. A lot of times people cheat because of sex. I mean, there's a lot of things that sex is important to in a relationship. It's important to that part of that bond. And I'm not a relationship counselor. I'm not a therapist when it comes to that. I've been married 4 times. But I can tell you this, when my relationships have been very good is when the communication was there, the communication was open and sharing and letting know of the struggles versus trying to hide it all and then making the other person believe that it's them and making the other person believe that, oh, you're tired. Come on. If you want to have that really healthy relationship, get to that communication. Take care of yourself. That's what makes a difference. That's what makes it fun again. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe button, hit the like and subscribe button. Comment down below. I'd love to hear your experiences on that. In the description, I have links to all my different social medias. I even have links to the mental health Discord communities. It's peer-to-peer support because my goal is to bridge the gap between a crisis hotline and therapy. Of sharing tools and experiences, support that helps people fight through every single day because life can be a battle and it's one that you're not alone in. And the more that we do share our experiences, the more that we share what we've been through, the more that it helps other people out there struggling through their trial and error to know that it's okay. I even have links down below to things on Amazon, such as fidget spinners, fidget cubes of things that I use for anxiety or for depression to help just cope with them. They don't cure them, but these are some of my coping tools. Even have a link down below to BetterHelp if you want to try online therapy, because you know what? Again, it comes down to trial and error, and it's trial and error for everybody. It's trial and error to find out what works for you. And what works for somebody else might not work for you, and that's okay. That's part of the trial and error process. But it's also about not giving up. And remember that you're a BAMF. You're a badass motherfucker. You made it through 100% of your worst days to make it through to today. So if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this together.